Welcome to the first panel, Fostering Institutional Trust Through Credible, Inclusive and Responsive Governance. My name is Agnieszka Turska-Kawa, and I have a great pleasure to conduct this diverse perspective. Institutional trust is, well, let's say oxygen for the public life, invisible but indispensable. Without it, even the best designed, the most carefully designed institutions lose their vitality, and their decisions meet more skepticism rather than credibility. We would like to discuss today how to strengthen the bridge between institutions, politicians, and citizens. So today, this panel brings together the perspective of researchers and policy makers. Let me introduce our guests. B. Puranen, Sweden Bikupan Research Institute. Welcome, B. Christian Herfer, University of Vienna, Austria, and this is the researcher perspective. And we have three politicians, Jan Olbrycht, representative of the European Parliament, longtime local government official and former marshal of the Silesian Voivodeship, Poland, welcome. Jacek Woźnikowski, representative of the Silesian Voivodeship, government, Poland, welcome. And Maciej Stachura, representative of local government, vice president of Katowice, Poland. The host city, let me underline this. Let me start with...
Just one remark. I'm not representing the voivodeship. I'm representing the metropolitan area with the toughest name in Europe, meaning Górnośląsko-Zagłębiowska Metropolia.
Okay, this is something that is difficult to understand by our guests, so that's why I wanted to make it in a shorter way as a metropolitan alliance of cities. Can I call it like this? Okay, thank you. First, let's start with some conceptual issues. When we are talking about credibility or trustworthiness, what do you mean by this? Because sometimes when we are planning such discussions, I have the impression that researchers and politicians are not talking about the same concept. Politicians are fighting for credibility, trustworthiness. We, as researchers, are trying to help you with this, with our research. What do you mean by trustworthiness? First, maybe the question to researchers. B.
Well, as you said now, it is really about trying to get the people to accept, if you are a politician, take it from a politician's point of view, do people feel that you are, perceive that you are credible? And that is a trustworthiness. Trust in itself can be many different layers. It can be individual, what kind of trust you have, trust to other people, trust the people you meet for the first time. And then you have the more general level of trust, which means how the whole society is working together, all different parts of society. And if that is, if you have faith in the institutions, for example, that's trustworthiness. So that's the difference between the two aspects.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are scientists. We make a list of trustworthiness elements and ask 30,000 European citizens, what is for you trustworthiness? And we have 12 questions, 12 items which define trustworthiness for us. And the result, like in the Eurovision Song Contest, is first of all, adherence to campaign promises. If you promise something in the campaign, you should stick to it after the election. That's the most important factor for the European citizens, that you don't promise something before, and afterwards you say, no, I forgot about this, I do something else. So you have to stick what you promise. Your party election platform should be also your government platform. That's the most important, and more than 40% of European citizens want you to do this in order to be trustworthy. So that's the most important thing. Don't change your mind before or after elections. Be constant. And don't promise stupid things which you know before and will not deliver it. Secondly, fairness and honesty. You should be honest and fair to the citizens, but also to the competition. You should not be unfair to the other politicians. Should be respectful, fair, and honest, and not taking bribes like the French President Sarkozy from Northern Africa. This is ranked by the importance. So this number one is stick to your promises. Number two is fair. Number three is if you have a responsibility, if you have a portfolio, if you have a task in your local government or whatever, when you do fulfill your responsibility, be competent. So you should not become Minister of Health like Kennedy in America, who has no idea about medicine. And so competence should mean that you should know what you are doing and not just bullshitting. Number four, follow democratic values and norms. So you should be a Democrat, and you should follow the norms also in your work. You should not be undemocratic in your political activity. Number five, don't ignore the citizens. Talk with them, engage with them, have some feedback, have some meetings. So these are all things which the citizens in Poland, in Czech Republic, in France, in 24 countries expect from the politics to deliver. Next one, absence of financial corruption. Don't be corrupt as far as possible. The next one is if you share information, be transparent. Don't take it from some website. Show the source. Don't say if you take some pill you become autistic automatically. You have to prove evidence. So it has to be transparent and clear and fair. Next, if you have a public speech, like you have now a speech, be consistent. Don't say something in the first 10 minutes which you then refuse in the next second 10 minutes. So if you give a speech in Parliament, be consistent also the next week, don't change it every week. The next point is, and these are the most important 9 items. So these 9 items, if you want to be trustworthy, if you want to be re-elected and supported by the citizen, do these 9 things as much as you can. And then there are others which are not so important, like dedication to local service in your constituencies, having a meeting, having an office in Katowice or in London, and talk to the people. So this basically, these 9 items define trustworthiness in our study. I don't want to take the time. We have it also by region. I could tell which countries have which patterns, but I think that's enough for the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. I recognize that it was rather funny for policymakers, politicians. So is it only for you theoretical perspective, or you find it in practice?
Yes. First of all, not the research was funny. The funny was the expression what Professor said. I mean, don't be corrupted as you said, as much as possible. This is very funny. It means okay. It means in fact don't exaggerate. If you are corrupted, please don't do it every day. Be careful. This is a much more Ukrainian way of thinking, and not only, but this is what the Ukraine is fighting for now, to change it, to change the attitude. By the way, I just want to add something that, of course, I'm the former mayor, former marshal, or former member of the parliament, but today I'm in the network of the experts of European Union, the Team Europe Direct, which exists in each member state. And we are trying to make the information about the European Union as broad as possible. But I think that what you said is, the question is, first, what was really also striking me, and you said the researchers, in fact, they are doing it to help politicians. I really doubt that the researchers are doing it to help politicians. Because the next question will be which one? Which politician? But I think the research is to show like a mirror. It's to show what is the situation. I mean, please look at it. I'm sociologist, so it's like I don't want to help. If you want to help politicians, you cannot be researcher. You should be in the agency which is making the training for politicians. This is okay, but this is not about research. Research is just to show the reality, what the people think, what is the situation, this is research, and the politician can take it or not. Most of the politicians are not taking it at all. Why? Because politicians, we know better. Because, of course, yes, we know better because we are elected and we are important, so we don't need it. Sorry, I exaggerate, of course, because the clever, more well-prepared politicians, they take into account, because if they think about their job in a very serious way. But of course, during my 35 years in politics, practically, I very often ask my sociologist friends, can you make the very short analysis for me how I should behave? And my colleagues from the university say, okay, but we need 3 years, and next we will publish the book. And after the book, we can say, forget it. I need 2 weeks. I need the very clear information from the researchers. What are the dangers, the obstacles, etc. So I think, just to answer your question, politicians, they need it, absolutely urgently need it. They need the knowledge, because today politics becomes very, very professionalized. This is not for the amateurs. The politicians making seriously politics is to be well prepared, to understand the whole mechanism, to predict something, and not to be someone who wants to be a politician. We know this kind of politicians in Polish parliament or everywhere. The people who want to be politicians, they are not prepared, they don't understand it, they just want to be on the stage. But this is a very serious job. This is a very serious job on the local level, on the regional level, national level, and European. And more you see professional politicians, it's better, because they are aware of the risk. And one thing more, what is very striking for me in the whole project, that we should take into account that we're thinking about the trust in democracies. The problem is that we are observing the change of thinking about democracy. So this is the changing concept of democracy, not only in Europe, in the whole world. This is the problem of the crisis of United Nations, but it's becoming more and more in Europe. That in fact, the populists, the extreme right populists, they are changing the notion of democracy as such. So when we should think about it, that in fact, the real concept of democracy, which we thought it's universal, and this is something obvious, it's not. It's not. The autocratic governments which are more and more in Europe, they are changing the concept of democracy. And to be trusted in this concept of democracy is different than in a very classic democracy. But for young people, we have a very, very famous joke in Poland in the communist time. What is the difference between democracy and socialist or communist democracy? What is the difference? The difference is the same like the chair and the electric chair. So this shows that we cannot speak today about democracy as such. No, democracy in a very concrete democratic way, and democracy in a completely new situation. And last word, when I was the mayor and I left university and I became the mayor, I was thinking how I should behave like a mayor. I made my PhD in sociology and said, okay, how I should behave. My colleagues from Scandinavian countries, they brought me the research showing that who is in the local government the most efficient? Who can be seen as the most efficient? Not this one who is a very good manager Everything is clear, all the lamps in the street, everything is well prepared, everything is correct. He's a very good manager, and he's losing the election. Why? Many of my colleagues in 90s, they lost the election because they were extremely well prepared managers. Democracy and local democracy, and not only local, is not only about being just effective. The Scandinavian colleagues, they showed me research, half of this is trust. Or they told us in the 90s. If someone is not trusted by the people, he will lose the election, even if he is the best manager in the world. So half of this. So I think that's why I think it's important. From that time, I'm still thinking that to be a politician is what you described, is to be very integral, to be honest, to be very clear, transparent, etc. If you lose the trust, that's it. Forget it. Please do something else.
Yeah, this is really interesting what you say, but we are not talking about the elites in a way. We are talking about politicians on the national level, might be regional level. But the big difference isn't that when you come to local politics, because then you have much closer to people. You can't be isolated as professionals sitting in the parliament or whatever. And that totally changes. And with the social media that we have now, we can see that people are getting so close. So you really have a change in the conditions for how to demonstrate your trustworthiness as a politician. I think that is one part important to think about, the local versus the elites. The second thing in what you say, I very much agree with from a scientific point of view with our studies, and especially with the World Value Survey. We can compare cultural zones around the world, and we can see that the Western Hemisphere is really deviating. So if we talk about democratic development, we should involve a lot of other cultural zones into it, because that will be decisive for the future of the globes. And a third one that I might add to this, it's about migration. Because when we have totally different, within the European context, we have countries like mine, Sweden, where we have 20% of the population is coming from countries in Middle East, the MENA region, and Africa. That changes totally, because they have another attitude. They are not so much downtoned and conflict avoiding, which we are normally. We are really avoiding conflicts all the time, and that's why also trust is such an important thing. 75% of the people trust people they have never seen before for the first time, as compared with Poland, for example. I think you are down to 26 or something. I mean, the huge differences between the countries and the cultural zones within the West when it comes to trying to see the importance of trust and what's happening. And what will happen in our countries now, with so many migrants coming, with other ways of looking on the concept of trust, trustworthiness, and democracy.
You want to add some?
So our perspective as a local government, I also very much agree with what Mr. Olbrecht said. I think he's got unique perspective as a previous mayor, as a person in a regional government, in European institutions, and also a scholar. For us, for local government, credibility is actually a foundation of our organization when we want to set a long-term goals. So it's how we work. And as you know, psychologists proved that credibility of the source of information is crucial for the recipient of information, yes? If you trust me, you are going to accept what am I going to say. If you trust our TV channels like TVN, Polsat, etc., if you like them, if you trust them, you are going to accept almost everything what they are going to tell you. If you don't trust them, you are going to disagree with almost everything. You can make tests like this later after the panel. Trust in local government is built mainly through what you have already said. So through predictability, through dialogue, through being transparent. It's very important for us, especially in crisis management, in crisis situations, like a couple of years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine, yes? We had to communicate a lot of different things to our citizens, also things that weren't easy for them. Yes, that it would be harder to go to the doctor. Yes, because there would be more people in the city, and so on and so on. But from the beginning, we were sure that we have to be trustworthy. Yes, we have to tell people the truth, even if it wasn't something easy to accept. And trustworthiness is also very important in what Mr. Olbrycht said. We are fighting, I think, in Poland with populism and extremism. Yes, and when you have credibility, it's a great tool to fight with it, because populism serves you really very easy solutions to very complex problems. And a world doesn't work like this. And if you want to prove it, that it doesn't work like this, we have to have credibility. So just this for starter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And so I do not consider myself as a politician. I work for the politicians. Thank you for the checklist of being a good politician. But I just got the question, what does it mean to be trusted? So for me, it means that I'm gonna behave in the way someone is expecting me to behave. When I trust you, if you're gonna do whatever I think you will do, then I trust you. So in the public administration, there's always a group of people who's gonna be disappointed by our performance. We cannot perform in the way that everyone is satisfied in the city or in the metropolitan area. So how to build trust? It's to be by good communication and by a good performance. And let me stick to the communication, because I would like just to add something different to the discussion. So I'm thinking about our social media and what do we communicate. And we are the people of success. We only communicate the things that are done well. We do not communicate our failures. In my opinion, it's not acceptable the way that public domain is communicating with the society. We do not communicate how I don't know, any kind of public procurement is conducted. We do it because we need to be transparent, so everything is listed, but it's a bit hidden. It's only for those who are really good researchers, who get time to do some deep searching at our website. So when you check our Facebook profile, our Instagram or our website, you'll only find that the good things, some conferences, good photos, but when you want to exactly know what we are doing, you need to go deeper. And that's something that sometimes journalists do, sometimes some whistleblowers will do, but that's not what we truly communicate. I would like to make a test and try to conduct one semester or one quarter of a year with the fully transparent communication of our office, for example. What exactly we do, how we do, communicate everything, and just to see what's going to be the reaction and how it's going to affect the trust of our organization. That's it, because the way we communicate is the way we present, and that's kind of just presentation. It's like the movie. It's a kind of illusion, and that's something which is interesting. What's behind the scene,
So trustworthiness is more about communication or actions? Because sometimes I think that when we are talking with politicians, they do a lot. And we know as researchers and at the university, because we cooperate with our surrounding, we know that politicians do a lot. But do we communicate it in a good way?
I mean, the communication is part of our job. So there's how can you good communicate and do it properly when you do not like act properly? Yeah, so you should communicate what you are doing, because you are paying us for it. So you should know what we are doing. Yeah.
I would like to use my sociological shoes for a moment, and I say, in this kind of debate and this kind of project, what is very important, and first I absolutely agree, but when I say professionalism, it doesn't mean profession, it means knowledge. More and more, even the local, they need the knowledge about the process. If they don't have it, reality is more and more complicated. So especially when you have people from immigration, from the another cultures, who are coming with completely different thinking about society, authority, and or democracy, etc. But I will say, it's very important. Do we think in the social sciences we can say value-free? Or we think about something which is charged with the very concrete values? When you speak about the trust, we're thinking about the, in fact, positive. Yes, positive. I mean, trust to the people, trust the politician. But in our research, what it really means to be good politician, etc., etc. Okay, but in politics, you have different politicians. And you have completely crazy people. I don't want to say stupid, but crazy people. And the people, they are credible. The people, they trust them. Is it the question of this research? I don't think so. This is much more, and when you say it's for a politician, it's showing the correct way, positive way. I can give you the example. When I was in the parliament, it was before Brexit. And before Brexit, one of our colleagues was Farage. He didn't want to speak Farage, is Farage. And his name is a little bit French, his wife is German, he has the European passport, so okay. And we asked him during the plenary session, Mr. Farage, why are you lying? Why are you lying about the European Union? You are just lying. Concretely, numbers, everything is a lie. What he answered us officially during the plenary session, and he said, so what? But I am winning. Can you imagine? This is breaking the standards. This is breaking the image. He's very efficient. Maybe he will be the Prime Minister of UK. He is now number one. He is lying, and some days after it, I met in Czechia some British people. One of them was completely drunk, so he came to me because he was very brave, drunk and brave, and said, "I've heard that you are from European Parliament. Why don't you like Farage?" I said, "Because he's lying." And he said, everybody is lying in politics, but he's winning. He's lying like all the others. I mean, this is the question, why the people trust the people who are just negative examples, just lying, or they have several crimes, like President of US. And the people, they trust him. It doesn't mean they trust him in what he's doing. They trust in terms of election, because we can give you the power because we think that you are efficient. You can give some examples from Poland. When we have people we know they broke the laws, so what? So what? So that's why I think it's very important for this kind of project to say that the trust cannot be value-free. Of course, theoretically can be, but I think that the trust is positive in itself. Trust has a consequence like honesty, transparency, etc. This kind of trust. If not, our analysis will be what to do to make the people trust in our action, and they will see the interest in your election. We think you are lying, but maybe I have the profit if I vote for you. So you are lying, everybody is lying, all the politicians are lying, but we can have the good interest and we can have the profit for us. This is not the trust what we are talking. This is a kind of credibility which is based on the profit, interest, etc. But it's negative in itself. So we should be very clear what we are talking about. That's why I said that you cannot help politicians as such. You should help the politicians who knows what is the public good. Yes, this is important.
Yeah. If I take the Nordic countries, and since you referred also to it before, this is extremely interesting. How can we explain that we have a high level of trust, actually even increasing in the Scandinavian countries, in the Nordic countries? At the same time, in the last election, 20% of the Swedish population voted for our populist party. And how can you have this high level of trust and also a quite low level of polarization? We do not see an increase in polarizations. All the politicians, whatever party they belong to, they chat with each other, like each other, they make friends, and they are like a family in a way. But you can't. And then when it's election time, they need to perform. But it's a performance. So in a way, that drunken man had something interesting to say. I mean, how you consider people when it comes to this, what is in depth in it. If you live in cultures that are conflict avoidance, that you're supposed to speak with small words, that you are listening to people, you're trying to find solutions, compromising all the time. It's really dangerous when you have a party coming up as a populist, and especially with the migration issue, because if they which they do, all these populist parties. Migration is one of their winning concepts to get votes. So how can we explain that we have this? I have no definite answer, but I believe we need to search under the surface. Why do people, when we are avoiding conflicts, vote for populist parties, but they do not dare to say it loudly? Nobody knows, and you get really surprised when the election results comes. Are people so coward? How should we consider it? What do you think?
You know, I can say what I think. But when you listen to the people can say, all right, I don't like them. They exaggerate. They are not cultural. They are not honest. Okay. But maybe they are brave. Maybe they will manage. Maybe they will oppose because they don't care. They don't care. So it's quite interesting that the people they can see, they are like interpret their interest. They see their own interest in the people who are say even trying to show good and bad things. Bad things, okay, they exist, but maybe they will, because the others will be too cultural, too compromise, etc. We propose this one because they are brave enough. They are brave enough, strong men. It's also linked to. As you know, a very popular theory around the world is about the question of the crisis of young men. Mm-hmm. And young men who are looking for the strong authority. I mean, so that's why I know that he is lying. I know that he is almost gangster. So what? But maybe he will be brave. Never will say it publicly, but non-publicly, who knows? You can. Yes, it works.
Okay. Yes, I think Nigel Farage is one example. By the way, he has 4 MPs, he has not won the election, so they are very good opinion polls, but at the moment his party has 4 seats in the parliament in Britain. Boris Johnson, you cannot lie to all the people all the time. Boris Johnson was, like Farage, lying about how much money goes to the NHS and so on, and he was lying about basically like Trump about everything. And but there's always something which breaks the back of the camel. during Corona, talking about alcohol and drunken British, he had big parties in Downing Street number 10, drinking in Corona, when everybody else in Britain has to be in a bubble of 2 people maximum. There were 20 drunken Conservatives and Boris Johnson celebrating Brexit. The result? His party lost 50% of the votes. Boris Johnson was chased into the desert. So not all examples of these ruthless liars are a success story. So I would, you have to be careful about this, because you cannot lie all the time to old people. Sometimes something is hitting you. And Farage was never in direct elections as a prime minister. He was always in this European Parliament. So we don't know how he will perform in direct elections. But just a warning about this.
Maciek.
It's very... it's very interesting discussion, because it was very interesting, the discrimination, that how people treat trustworthiness. So some politicians, like definitely Mr. Olbrycht, they treat it as a very important idea, like, you know, Platonic ideas of beauty, justice, truth. But for some politicians, you know, it's just a tool to achieve success, and it's proved that there are some rules of social influence. If you had a chance to read Cialdini, he described it, yes? If you are fluent in those rules, if you can do it, you can achieve almost everything. Of course, it's not something we like, but it works like this. What Professor said earlier about sticking to your promises, it's very important in local government. So I want to give you one example how we try to build it in Katowice. Our mayor, Marcin Krupa, it's his 3rd term, so he had 3 election processes, and during each election process he signed, we called it a contract with Katowice citizens. Each contract listed specific commitments, let's say promises, yes? It was very specific, so like building 3 more parks and something in culture. It was very specific, and every year a mayor is holding a press conference, and he's saying, he's talking about progress of implementation of those commitments. And even if something is going wrong, yes, he admits it, yes. We've got a problem, for instance, with tram line to the south of the city. But the crucial issue is to communicate with people, to tell them why it's going wrong. Sometimes there are commitments, it was like, let's say 5% that Mr. Mayor had to cancel, but he consulted with people, he talked with them, and he explained it why we have to cancel something. And it's very interesting, because when you go to the website of Marcin Krupa, he's not like some politicians that after elections they are hiding their election plans, yes? It happens a lot of time. On his website, of Marcin Krupa website, you can find his election programs for 3 previous campaigns, yes? And you can see progress of implementation. So it's what you said, sticking to your promises, it helps you to build a real credibility.
Thank you, Jacek Woźnikowski.
Yeah, I've got a question, because you said that the trust is increasing in Scandinavian countries to the government, and in the meantime, the ones who are governing the countries are losing the power, so what's your take on it? Like, what's the reason? Because when the trust is increasing, I mean, the society believes what government says and what the government does, and they accept it. And you told us about the migration case and the populist. So what's your take on that issue? Because it's somehow interesting that they do believe what the government says, but they don't want them to rule the country anymore.
Yes, thank you for that. It's a very important thing you are raising here, the issue. I can take some examples. We have the two big parties, a moderate right and then the Social Democrats on the left side. They have very much in common, even though they are on totally different parts of it. For example, when it comes to attitudes to migration, as you said, they both agree on the politics, and that means that you have the major people being represented when it comes to that. I think to be able to understand this liaisons that we can see, we saw it now in Norway in the last election, for example, the same thing, and that is to add another thing into this, which we haven't talked about, and that is the confidence in institutions, because it's about institutions. It's not just about people acting in the way that Professor Hertford described. We have also asked questions on institutional trust. And that is very important, because that's something else, and it's a stability in it. And if you can trust the institutions that are carrying democratic values, and we have other values like emancipative values, freedom values, for example, we can see a total correlation between a high level of emancipative values and democratic system, liberal democratic systems. While in countries, authoritarian countries, you can see they are low on emancipative values and high. And then if you look at Europe, you can find that there are some countries in Europe where you can see some tendencies, increasing tendencies to authoritarian values. They are low or decreasing on emancipative values, but most countries for example, 12 countries that we have now studied in this project, we can see that there is an increase in both in trust and in trustworthiness, which is interesting. Different levels, yes, but the direction is important when we see this. But to understand it fully, we need to see the role of the institutions. And we have a problem in the Nordic countries. We kind of consider us as very positive, but I would say I would disagree with that in a way, because the risk when you have systems where you have this high level of trust in both institutions and in the politicians, or in civil societies organization, we have a lot of them. People don't dare to speak out. It's a kind of a conformity where you tend to agree to disagree. I mean, you don't speak loudly about it. And then it's all beneath the surface. And then we get so surprised when we get a result in the election, that 20%, because nobody dared to air their doubts, for example, of the amount of migrants coming in. We didn't do it until it was too late. I mean, it was like in Germany with Schaffendas. We had the same attitude. We were standing there with our signs, welcome. And we did 2015, 10 years ago, really felt like that. But today, many people see that it doesn't work because the integration is not working fast enough. We see the problem especially with issues on equality, for example, and women's questions, and a lot of things that we do not expect and accept. So I think that is the way we can interpret it, and this is what we try to do in this research project that is now almost finished, but we have done. And we have seen another thing in this project, and that is that the cleavages, we talk a lot about increasing cleavages on media, for example. We don't see that. We don't see increasing cleavages, actually, for example, on these issues, and also on environmental issues and a lot of other vital things. It's so that the media story and what we find as research results deviate. We do not see that polarization. We do not see this increase in cleavages. We see a quite stability instead.
It's still somehow confusing because if I get you correctly, the performance of the country is good. The society accepts it, but you told us that your approach to, for example, with migration thing, that you said it's not working. Like 15 years ago, you had different approach, and right now it's not. The society sees that it's not working. So the performance of the country is not working, and still the trust is increasing.
Well, I didn't say that it's not working. I mean, we realize that changing value system takes time. It's about culture. If you come from cultures where you have how you look upon women, for example, And you come to a country like Norway, Sweden, and it's a huge difference. Just the idea that your corporal punishment of children, etc. It's not failing. It's just that we have thought that the change would be at a faster path than it has been. It takes time to change value systems when you're brought up, and we haven't worked with it. We thought that just by coming and seeing how much better it is in the Western world, that they will change and adapt. But quite many people do not. I mean, they don't want to integrate some. We are not talking about the majority of the migrants. The majority of them are working, are getting integrated. It's just in their own pace. But you also have these other groups who actually do not want to integrate, and that is the problem. But the politicians don't dare to kind of air this thing. Instead, they put it under the table, so to speak, and we don't work with it. And I think that is the explanation why the Populist Party won 20%, because they spoke up. They said what nobody else dared to say. And hopefully now for this coming election, which we have next year, the politicians of all varieties of colors will talk. I mean, we need to combat our own feeling of conformism.
So that's the challenge, because as Mr. Albrecht said, that the research is kind of the mirror, yeah? So when you've got that mirror and you see, okay, the society trusts us, but in fact, there is something under the table, yeah? Because we lost the election, we see that, okay, we are performing good because we've got that level of trust. But then something is not said loudly. And how to be a good politician, how to run the country when you've got the mirror that's not telling the truth.
But I think that what you have just said about Katowice, about Sweden, it underlines that trust is relational. So it's not that we can sit together, even researchers, politicians, and think what is good for people. We have to listen to them, we have to observe value change. We have to follow our experience, we have to listen for former politicians, and then we can try, we can change, we can build some relations, and we can rebuild it listening to people. And I think that this is the most important thing for us, and this is also the result from our TRUEDEM project, that we need education, not to make some accountability, yes, to tell people why do we need politicians? How can we cooperate with them? What can we expect from them? Not to get some, as you said, particular benefits by lying, for example, or corrupting, but just for building the common good. And this is something that is very, for me, wealthy from our project. I think that we have some space for one or two questions to our prominent guests. Do you have some questions? Professor Boglarka-Koller. I will give you the mic. Wait. But we have the record, so maybe it will be easier.
Thank you. It was I congratulate first of all to the research result of this wonderful project. I'm coming from Hungary, so I think I wanted to just mention something that my country is unique in the European Union in that sense, and I was very happy to see how the trust in connection to populist, autocratic, illiberal regimes. And my country, yes, we can debate on that, but can be put into this illiberal category. And what we see, and I think should be worth to research in the future, is the life cycle of trust. So that, because the Hungarian experience can teach a lot to the other parts of the world about this. So what happens when the trust was maintained to certain institutions, and half of the population, the elderly generation living in the countryside, trusted urban government and the institutions as well. And it seemed that, okay, we have all these democratic institutions, most of the citizens trust them, and for a moment somebody came and started to challenge these kind of attitude. And another populist-like leader in the opposition just appeared on the scene. And it seems that now the voters are absolutely uncertain about what they're doing. Every day they are looking for whom to trust, actually, because the new institutions were created in the name of like democracy. And after 15 years, when the government had the chance to indoctrinate everything, to make people believe in things, and now, so my big question is, if after this autocracy, because I think we are at this life cycle, we are reaching the end of this, hopefully the end of this regime, then we see that another populist is needed to take up all these arguments, or can we actually, a new era is going to come when what you are mentioning, and it was quite idealistic to me, that they shouldn't be so corrupt and everything, the politicians, there's a list of advice or checklists what they have to follow, or it's just an illusion and another is going to come, because this erosion of 15 years created an atmosphere where it's no possible to go back to trust in democratic institutions. So I think Hungary, it is useful to include in the project because it's an outlier in these trends. And it's at another phase of this life cycle. And it can teach a lot, even to the US scholars, what to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from our participant?
If I can comment, I mean, first comment, thank you for your comment, but I think that we should understand first that your expression illiberal democracy is official. It's not the description of researchers. Orban is using it as an official. I mean, he thinks that he wants to have in Hungary illiberal democracy. It means he wants in Hungary democracy which is not liberal, comparing what you said, liberal democracy in Scandinavia. So I think it's very important. And I think that, by the way, my feeling is that unfortunately the tendency for autocracies is stronger in Central and Eastern Europe. Hungary is an example. But of course, today is also Slovakia. This is a going problem in Czech Republic. This is a problem in Bulgaria and Romania. This is also our history and our past. I mean, so many years in a communist system, in fact, change a lot. So that's why it will change. It will take generations to change the view of people. And that's why the people in Hungary today are lost, because they don't want what's going. Because for my Hungarian friends in parliament, when I ask them, do the people in Hungary, because if they trust Orban, do they know that he likes Putin? And they said, not especially, because if they knew that he's close to Russians, probably they wouldn't support him. But in fact, he created his machine of institutions and trust in a completely different way. Is based on the anti-European, etc., etc. So, but the real question is, if you have the populist model, how to fight it and how to change the trust of people. If the people trust in A, how to make them trust in B. How to make the A was completely wrong. Why this is extremely difficult. It's like in Poland, when you have a rule of law and you break a rule of law completely. This is a chaotic problem of justice system. How to create the new justice system, which will be correct? Can you make it in a very correct way to people that trust it? It will take 25 years. Or you will make the shortcut. And that's what you said, another populist who can come and say, no. The very, very important, why the populists, they get the trust? Why? Because what you said, they don't hide very often what they think. They present the answer for complicated questions on a very simple way. On a very simple way. So that's if this problem is very complicated, like migration, the answer from the populace is clear: out.
Yeah.
Throw them out. How? Impossible. But in Sweden, impossible. 20% of people from Africa and Central and Middle East, etc. You cannot throw the people out. But the populace say no. The only way out, like some of the populists, they say, shut them on the border. Just use the machines, carry arms, etc. And the people they see, they say, okay, oh, I see someone who's very concrete, very strong, very. So they can build the trust on this. If my private slogan as sociologist is also, the people are not so stupid. I mean, in general, I mean, society is not stupid. It's like all the liars are finishing, but probably it will take years. So that's why I think it's extremely difficult for a politician when they see the populists who give the simple answer, and you know that simple answer is impossible. How to present the view which will be negative? How to get the trust of the people? Saying the populists are saying say black white, and you have to say it depends, and the people say forget it. I mean, he is weak. He is weak. It depends is nothing. We prepare someone who said black and white. So that's why I think it's the trust today is extremely difficult, extremely difficult. But I would like to repeat, but if we think about trust, we should give this positive value, public good. This is trust. The others is mistrust, is lying.
Yeah.
We have to be very careful. We cannot put it under one, that this is trust and this is trust, because we are lost. We are lost because the politician will say, how to get trust? You know who is losing all the elections around the world? And my colleagues, politicians, they never learn, never. Because the people would like to make the copy. When you have the extreme right, the people from the center right, they want to play extreme right, to be more extreme than extreme. And they will never be as extreme as extreme. So they are losing elections. The left is trying to be as left as possible, and they are losing elections because they make trust is based on stability, on clear, what you can expect, and not what you are playing. And when you are playing, you are not trustful. Populists are not playing. They are just lying, but they are stable in lying, like Orban. I know Mr. Prime Minister Orban quite well from times, and I think he's very clever, unfortunately. But I hope it will change.
I really like what you said, the last sentence, trust is built on stability. Because we can see, for example, what is happening now with Putin and his aggression in Ukraine. I think one can't discuss this without taking up that issue. Well, one scenario could be that people get together more against the aggression, against Putin, so it can unite people, realizing that there is a real threat here that threatens the stability of the Western world, and that might be needed to work with it. For example, Sweden hasn't been in war for a couple 100 years, but still people have a very high confidence in the military forces, the armed forces, even though they have never done a thing for all these years. But it shows, but they still remember when the Russians came to Finland and to Sweden, I mean, some 200 years ago. And it's still there vividly, so people fight. I think this is the way of helping the building trust in society. That's to show what will happen if aggressions like what Putin is doing. And that can unite people. And then it's not so important if you're liberal in one sense or another sense, or if you're a bit left or a bit right. I mean, that can unite people. I think that's what's important with the trust, because it is in its nature, it's about stability.
And just a few words. Your question was very interesting. It's like, can you fight populism with another populism? And I think in Poland we proved that you don't have to do this. As you know, our previous government, Law and Justice, they ruled for 8 years. So they were in charge of everything, like in Hungary now, yes? Public media, biggest newspapers, you know, almost everything. And as you know, Civic Platform, they won election. And you can call our new government many names, but definitely you cannot call them populists, yes? So I think you can do this, but it's of course very, very difficult.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that Poland is a very good example that it's not fate, you can stop it, you can reverse it. So if people say, Urban will be there forever as long as his body weight index is okay, but I think Poland is a very good example to stop it with democratic means. Also, I agree with you that trust is not necessarily trust in democracy. It can be trust in the political system, the regime in China, in Russia. So you cannot say if they have high trust, they're democratic. So it's trust is related to the performance of the regime. If the Chinese deliver the goods, if they have money, jobs, then they have high trust. This does not mean liberal trustworthiness. So that's a difference. Not all trust has to be with democracy. You can have a trusted Xi Jinping. What I mean is, that's where we compare trust and trustworthiness. And there we can see that in Sweden we have an index of 51. In Germany we have an index of 46. In Poland 43, very high. But in Hungary, 34. So in Hungary, the Hungarians are aware that there's a low level of honesty, responsiveness, competence there. So the Hungarians are not blind to saying, Urban. So they are realistic and they know there's something wrong. That's why we differentiate between trust in the performance of a regime, or trustworthiness in terms of liberal democratic performance. So this is our point in our project. That's why because Professor Welzel also talked about shallow trust. You can have shallow trust in Russia because people say, if I don't say I trust Putin, I might get a visit from the KGB, so maybe I say I trust Putin. So there's this shallow, lying trust, just to be obedient and not to get into trouble. Thank you.
Thank you very much. After this panel, I'm more aware that we need to each other, and politicians should be aware of our research as from our project. Of course, this is on them if they listen to us or not, but we also need politicians to describe behaviors, citizens, and work on the common good. Thank you very much. I hope we can continue these inspiring discussions during the coffee break, and our guests will stay with us, so you can also ask some questions during the break. And one last question to Jan Olbrycht.
It's not the question, just the advice. If you want to have a good contact with politicians, please remember they are ready to listen to you. If you come and to be very concrete, and you will not bring one book, but you will bring 10 pages, of 2 pages, 1 page. You know, the center of advice for American president, which is in the center of Pentagon, you know, this is the center of decision. They showed us the paper for the president they produce. The paper for president of US, they produce every week. It's 1 page. 1 page. So I think that that's why what I propose you to absolutely to attack politicians, to say that your project is based on liberal democracy. This is very important. I mean, basic, because if you are speaking about trust, this is about techniques. How to make the people trust me even if I'm lying. No, this is different. This is different. This is about how to create the public good and the democratic, liberal democracy. Please go to them, attack them, but bring them a leaflet like this. They will read it.
Communication.
Yeah,
No, you have to be clever.
I agree. When I was writing advice to the Austrian president going to Russia, to meeting with the Russian president, this was Yeltsin, he said half a page. And he had half a page. On the plane from Vienna to Moscow was reading half the page and told Yeltsin his ratings in Russia.
Thank you very much.